Well, it's official, the greatest game of last year, possibly of ever, Dragon Age the Veilguard, didn't fail because of its own fault. Yeah, sure, the game might have failed, but it had nothing to do with the player backlash. It had nothing to do with the overblown pronoun usage, and the really stupid character designs, and the atrocious gameplay, and the bad graphic, and the betrayal of the lore, or anything else. Don't you know? None of those things are real, none of those things are true. The characters were all amazingly done, none of the dialogue was camp or cringe in the slightest, and Dragon Age the Veilguard comes out as one of the greatest in the long line of bioware games, is what I would say if I was a gender-confused whale. And while it's pretty obvious to anyone with two brain cells to rub together exactly what went wrong with Dragon Age the Veilguard, unfortunately it doesn't look like most people have those two brain cells to rub together. From the people like Eddie Fade, who are going out and shooting their mouth off about how BioWare has abandoned them because they aren't giving them the praise and attention they got earlier, and they're not doing anything to accommodate Eddie for the hate that she is receiving for her horrible Dragon Age videos, including Eddie's most recent meltdown, which is hilarious to watch. But it's not just these completely gender-confused schizoids who are having a meltdown over this game, but even the CEO of EA, blabbing his mouth, saying he knows exactly why the game failed, and it has nothing to do with the fact that it upset the core audience of Dragon Age, and nothing to do with the fact that the game broiled itself deep within identity politics. It has nothing to do with the fact that the game was made in a culture of extreme toxic positivity. No, it has nothing to do with any of that. It's all because the game wasn't live service. You heard it right. The reason why Dragon Age the Veilguard, the biggest flop of mankind, especially of last year, didn't succeed is because it wasn't live service. It wasn't penny pinching, demanding every last dollar from the player base. It wasn't making you pay $1 million a week just to get the newest character. It wasn't forcing you to play games with stupidly dumb other players and force multiplayer. How could this game miss such a great opportunity to not be live service? Especially when you consider Hogwarts Legacy, the previous Dragon Age games, Black Myth Wukong. But of course, those might just be outliers, so obviously it must be a live service game, so that way it can broil in the success of games like Concord and Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League and Skull and Bones. Wait. It seems to be there's a bit of a flaw in their logic, but maybe they can justify a little bit. So before I get any further, like, subscribe, and let's get into this. Coming from Phantom Pulse, EA CEO explains why Dragon Age the Veilguard did not resonate with a broad enough audience, written by John of Trent. EA CEO Andrew Wilson briefly touched on Dragon Age the Veilguard commercial failure, noting the game did not resonate with a broad enough audience. Really, when you appeal to only 14% of the population at maximum, more realistically only around 1% of the population, you're going to be shocked when the remaining 98% don't turn out to buy your game? Who would have thunk that would have been such a failing business model? When half of the country thinks every single one of you belong in an insane asylum, what are you doing trying to appeal to the smaller minority? And then how are you legitimately shocked when they don't come out in troves to celebrate your absolute degeneracy of a game? During EA's Quarter 3 2025 earnings conference call, CEO Andrew Wilson said, Q3 is not the financial performance we wanted or expected. We know as a leader in global entertainment, great titles. EA hasn't put out a good game since the first Fallen Order, and that was, what, 2015? They have no idea what they're doing when it comes to video games, and they haven't known, and they've lost the player trust and interest a long time ago, and this entire time they've just been trying to play catch-up. The closest they got to a good game was Apex Legends, but that game has completely shit the bed, given the fact that they decided to go all in on divisive politics, instead of trying to balance the game, deal with anything but the zimming, or get rid of any of the cheaters, instead of opting to punish people who are playing the game normally, or saying naughty no-no words like just the word gay, instead of actually handling any of the real problems in the game. So no, EA, you have not been known as a leader in entertainment great titles for a very long time. And yet, despite the fact that you're in such an inebriated position when it comes to the gamer's opinion, you still somehow managed to miss your financial expectations. Who would have thunk that was a possibility? But from there, he listed off the 3 objectives that the company Blockbuster strategy employs. Now, I guarantee you're going to be shocked by all 3 of these, because EA hasn't done any of them in a very long time. Number 1, create an authentic story and experience for the core audience. The core audience of Dragon Age is definitely going to love it when Drag Queen Story Hour comes to the Middle Ages. That is exactly what we want, and that's exactly what we wanted when you took away blood magic, so there wasn't an easy option for top surgery scars. And that's what we wanted when you took away any interest in the world and changed everything just so you could pretend to tell your fairy tale story, where every single character is a child in a grown-up's body. But maybe they'll pick it up with the later two. Second, build innovative, groundbreaking features. Top surgery isn't an innovative feature. I'm sorry. The ability to pick your own pronouns isn't an innovative feature. And the ability to, take away all of the gameplay options from previous games without building on any of them. So you're offering a weakened product to what we got in the past. That's your idea of innovation. But who am I to say? Those old features, they're just racist. So you're totally in the right for getting rid of them. And then finally, emphasize high quality launches across both PC and console. Yes, EA, what you're really known for is optimization. You are the king of optimizing games. How should I dare to criticize you when you are so perfect at optimizing your games to run on only NASA-based computers? None of your games have ever had done a good job of running. I mean, let's not forget the absolute shit state that Jedi Survivor was in when people were constantly clipping through the floor, or if you managed to jump on your spaceship and take off, you were glitching out all over the place. When Doom runs better on a potato than your game works on a modern computer, I don't think you need to be talking about how you aim to emphasize high quality launches across both devices. But in order to break out beyond the core audience, games need to directly connect to the evolving demands of players who increasingly seek shared world features and deeper engagement alongside high-quality narratives in this beloved category. Well, nothing's really evolving. The standard of quality has not shifted. If you just re-released Dragon Age Origins and didn't change anything except maybe make the graphics look a bit more modernized, people would go out in troves to buy it. Well, they would have before you did uncountable amounts of brand damage. Nobody needs things to constantly be evolving and changing. We just need things to keep up with the times. We need things to be smooth and now instead of clunky. But you didn't even do that. You produced a product that wasn't up to par with modern days. It was a game that felt and looked like one that came out in 2015 with no new adaptations or adjustments whatsoever for the change in technology. And yes, a lot of people love games that have multiplayer features, but if you notice in my preamble, I named a whole bunch of really successful single-player games that came out earlier this year. Remember Black Myth Wukong, the highest played game of last year, which completely changed the market focus of From Science, or whatever the company who made Black Myth Wukong was, from a shitty indie game company to something that actually puts effort into making developed, deep, single-player games because of how successful one game managed to be. What multiplayer live service game dominated the market last year? ReFantasia, that one made by Hoyoverse? Marvel Rivals? That's not really a live service type game in this sense. It's a PvP hero shooter, completely different genre. He then specifically addressed Dragon Age the Veilguard. Dragon Age had a high quality launch, bullshit, and was well reviewed by critics and those who played. However, it did not resonate with a broad enough audience in this highly competitive market. Yeah, it did so well with its target demographic that after only a couple months after launch, it's 40% off on Steam. Totally checks out, my guy. However, it did not resonate with a broad enough audience in this highly competitive market. That's very true. You didn't manage to appeal to anyone other than the 13% of the population you're aiming for. And last time I checked, 41% of your audience just killed themselves. In Minecraft, of course. That's a little unfortunate, not getting any return players, I suppose. But just how bad did Dragon Age the Veilguard do in comparison of their expectations? Well, it's approximately 1.5 million players during the quarter, which is down nearly 50% of the company's expectations. And even funnier than that, EA gutted bioware in response to the absolute flop that was Dragon Age the Veilguard, with recent rumors and reports coming that only 80 employees are left in the company. As former World of Warcraft team lead Mark Curran, aka Grums, one of the most reputable voices on this side of the internet, noted at the beginning of this month that the company was down to 80 employees before the last round of writer layoffs, and reportedly they've had more layoffs since then. And of course, that even includes the main person responsible for the absolute shit show that is Veilguard, the crossdresser known as Corine Busch, who has now gone over to Wizards of the Coast to work on Dungeons & Dragons games for them. What a smart move to get the person who killed the game that was made to improve on the Baldur's Gate formula to kill the next entry into the Baldur's Gate universe, since you decided to fire the company behind Baldur's Gate 3. What a smart move, WotC. What I really just don't understand is how these people can never seem to learn the right lesson. Every single chance they're given, every time they're told exactly what gamers want, exactly what the player demands, they somehow fail to listen. And I know, I'm fully aware that it is a deliberate choice, because all these people care about doing is pushing their BlackRock demands so they can line their pockets with that sweet, sweet DEI money, and pushing whatever's going to give them the most greed. After all, when EA thinks what the idea of a successful game is FIFA or Chell, and that's how they're going to design their monetization strategy for every single game, it's no surprise that they can't seem to make a single dark fantasy game work. But that's pretty much all I've got. Let me know, do you think that if they just made it so you had to buy loot boxes and had to do every single mission with the rest of your friends that nobody who plays Veilguard has any of, that would have saved this game? And I will see you guys on the next one.